What is going on, guys? Thank you so very much for joining me right here for Off the Script. This is episode 302, part number 2 for your Sunday, rainy Sunday, here on the East Coast, December 1st, 2019. Yesterday, we talked about the newest, biggest clown in WWE, and his name is Corey Graves. We went over the entire Corey Graves and Mauro Ranallo situation. That was the big story coming out of part 1. We also talked about the real reason that nobody really is discussing, and I don't know how people in the community can't put the pieces together as to why it was such a boring main event at the Survivor Series, but Vince McMahon was unhappy with it. He had absolutely no reason to be unhappy with anybody but himself. And we talked about the real reason why the main event of the Survivor Series with Shayna Baszler, Bayley, and Becky Lynch in that triple threat match was a complete failure and a disappointment. That is what we talked about on part 1. If you guys missed that, link will be down in the description of this very video. Today, we got a lot of news, and we're going to talk about the other biggest clown in WWE, and that is Seth Rollins. His heel turn was not in the original WWE plan. I don't know why it wasn't, because the way that they booked him, they should have went right back to the drawing board and decided on what to do with Seth Rollins, and the only thing that could possibly work for Seth Rollins is said heel turn. We're going to go over why the heel turn was not the original plan in WWE. Seth Rollins possibly completing the heel turn at TLC, and everything regarding Seth Rollins, who was already a heel, but you just didn't know it. Or if you didn't know it, you were ignorant to the fact and always thought he would remain a babyface in his current state. Vince McMahon already done with Humberto Carrillo. Does this surprise anybody? I guess Vince McMahon got tired of the dimples already on Monday Night Raw. Seth Rollins, his heel character, is going to wrestle reportedly as a baby face, even as a heel. I got an update on the future of Matt Hardy, the future of Luke Harper, the future of Bobby Fish. What is the injury status on Bobby Fish coming out of that scary moment on NXT Wednesday? Update on the future of Full Sail University. WWE announces the World Collide 2020 event during the Royal Rumble weekend. What is it going to be, and how are they going to go about that? Update on the TakeOver schedule, why they're scheduling TakeOver for February 16th in Portland, Oregon, and that is not during a major WWE pay-per-view weekend, and why I think this is going to be a good thing for everybody involved. Vince McMahon furious with Seth Rollins for acknowledging the CM Punk chants on Monday Night Raw. Sure he is. And Vince McMahon and his big plans for Keith Lee. Seeing that Keith Lee was one of the biggest attractions coming out of the Survivor Series. What is WWE's plan for Keith Lee, and will we see him on the main roster in the next couple of months? Possibly a debut in the Royal Rumble, with a main roster debut looming soon after that. Guys, we got a lot to go over. Don't go anywhere. This is the #1 podcast right here on YouTube and all of the wrestling community here on YouTube. I am JD. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on that bell for all notifications. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. YouTube's been a little off lately with all this COPPA garbage and all this child protection agency bullshit. So make sure you guys are hitting that thumbs up and doing everything that you can to support the channel so that the videos and the channel are seen in front of more eyes each and every week. Make sure you guys go and check out all the other videos that you might have missed this week, man. There's a ton of it. Raw, AEW Dynamite, NXT, SmackDown, and then yesterday's fire episode of Off the Script. Make sure you guys go and check all of that out. If you want to support the podcast via Patreon, you guys can certainly do that as well. Patreon.com/JD from NY206. And today the podcast is brought to you, as always, by Harry's This Holiday Season. There's no better gift to give than the gift of Harry's. That is harrys.com/script. Guys, I know the holiday season can be stressful. I know holiday shopping can be just as stressful as anything all year. And I know you gotta shop for your dad, your uncle, your grandpa, maybe your best friend. And how many times have you seen it? All these cliche gifts being given out for the guy that is most important in your life. Socks, wallets, t-shirts. If worse comes to worse, underwear. Nobody wants those gifts. I got a better idea. I got a gift that is both thoughtful and practical. Harry's. Now, I've been using Harry's for the better part of 3 years. I absolutely love it. I love the smooth glide of the blade. I love how I've never cut myself using a Harry's blade ever, and I love that it gives me the closest shave possible. Listeners of my show can get $5 off any Harry's shave set by heading to harrys.com/script. Guys, you're going to get free shipping this holiday season, and that ends on December 16th, so act now. It's a practical gift that I'll actually use. Harry's makes sharp blades that last, German-engineered and award-winning, backed by a 100% quality guarantee, so if he doesn't love his shave, which I don't know why he wouldn't, you guys are going to get a full refund. It's a great deal for you and him. Holiday sets just start at $20. That's within Secret Santa limits as well. And Harry's blade refills are as low as $2, so your guy will save money over time. It comes ready to gift in a handsome holiday gift box, and your gift actually gives back. This holiday season, 1% of each sale will be donated to charitable organizations. As a special offer for fans of Off the Script, we've partnered with Harry's to give you guys $5 off any shave set, including their limited edition holiday sets, when you go to harrys.com/script. Plus, you guys are going to get that free shipping up until December 16th. Each Harry's shave set comes with a weighted handle with the option to engrave, so you're giving a personalized gift for the most important man in your life. 5-blade razor cartridges, foaming shave gel for a rich lather, travel blade cover to protect your blades, packaged in a handsome holiday gift box this holiday season. Remember, guys, that free shipping ends December 16th, so act now. Just go to harrys.com/script and give the gift of Harry's this holiday season. Alright, guys, we got a lot of news to go over today, so I want to tackle some of the smaller stories for you right here to start the podcast. Bobby Fish was in a match, or scheduled to be in a match, with Kyle O'Reilly in defense of their NXT Tag Team Championships against Keith Lee and Dominik Dijakovic. Now, the pairing of Keith Lee and Dijakovic was to be expected, because how many times realistically can they battle one another and come up with a different match every single time? It started to get a little bit tedious and a little bit repetitive as far as their battles go. So, in the entire idea of respect, they ended up teaming up together, and they were actually in the War Games match together as well. So it would make sense for them to go and battle the Undisputed Era for the Tag Team Championships and put their strengths together and maybe become Tag Team Champions. I thought the match was fantastic. That pounce on Adam Cole was one of the highlights of the entire year. That was just unbelievable. But something happened to Bobby Fish where Keith Lee bench pressed him over the top rope, and he landed awkwardly on his knee coming down. I don't know if he hit the concrete on the way down, or if he landed in a way where it came down on Kyle O'Reilly's knee, like his knee clashed with Kyle O'Reilly's knee. He got taken out of the match. It was not planned at all, because Roderick Strong came in. The announce team said that the Undisputed Era were utilizing the Freebird rule, which I didn't really know that they did, or if it was really a thing with them in NXT. I guess so. They really didn't make a big deal of it when Bobby Fish was out all those months and Roderick Strong was in there defending the tag team titles with Kyle O'Reilly. They didn't really make a big deal of it, but they did mention it on commentary. So I guess they are a team also that could utilize that rule. But you know it was not planned, because Roderick Strong came in and he was not in his wrestling gear. He was in jeans and he was in regular street clothes. His shoes, his jeans. He wasn't prepared. it goes to show you how he was not even in the match, and the match ended up still being great at the end of it. But Bobby Fish got hurt. I got an injury update on Bobby Fish. Now, PW Insider's reporting that Fish was pulled from the match as it was feared that he might have been knocked out during the bump on the outside during the match. PW Insider also notes that Fish was seen walking around backstage after the show, so it is believed that the injury is not that serious at all. They say, and I quote, "The belief among those that we've spoken to is that there was some concern for Fish and he might have hurt himself or knocked himself out taking the bump on the floor. We are told he was walking around backstage after the show and seemed to be okay," end quote. So maybe we'll see him on Wednesday. They might keep him off of the show on Wednesday just to give him an extra week to recuperate, but as long as Bobby Fish is not bitten by the injury bug again. A lot of people I've seen on social media were speculating that he was hurt and that his age is catching up to him. He's becoming a little bit more injury prone as he ages. Bobby Fish is a trooper. Bobby Fish is a vital part of the Undisputed Era, and I'm glad to see and hear from PW Insider that it is not all that serious. If it was up to me, I'd give him an extra week to recuperate and make sure he is okay. He doesn't really need to go all that hard on himself going into next week, so we'll see what happens with Bobby Fish. I'm just glad that he is okay, according to PW Insider. Lana signed a new multi-year contract to remain with the WWE. Now, I didn't really give a shit when I first heard about this story. I don't give a shit about it now. I don't give a shit about Lana. I don't give a shit about Bob Lashley or Rusev or the story that they're trying to tell on television. I don't think anybody gives a shit about anything these three individuals are trying to tell as far as a story on WWE TV. I said a couple of weeks ago when we talked about Rusev contemplating signing with the WWE, he came out and said that, yes, I'd love to go back to Saudi Arabia. I make a lot of money going over to Saudi Arabia. He was very vocal about certain things about the storyline, saying that it was the hottest storyline in all of WWE and people are loving it. And he was praising the work the storyline has done on Monday Night Raw. He was honestly shilling himself to the WWE audience and any publication that would sit down with one Rusev. Now, I said in that little rant that I went on about Rusev that if he signs a WWE deal, that's great for him. Who am I to say how he lives his life, what he wants to do with his life, and how much money he thinks he deserves to make? That is all on him. I am sitting here as an outsider looking in. And I am sitting here as an outsider looking in and looking at all the other people that WWE tried to reel in with big money contracts, with hopes of change and hopes of creativity and hopes of a push, maybe a title reign, hopes of a little bit more importance on WWE TV, which WWE should be creatively writing for these people anyway, because they have so many talented individuals that they are right now wasting. I look at this from an outsider's perspective looking in, and I look at all the manipulation by WWE with all these big money contracts going out and everybody remaining hopeful that change is definitely happening because, you know, if you are one of those guys and WWE is sitting down with you, are you honestly thinking the way that I'm thinking? Or are you thinking, well, I've been working for the WWE for all this time and they're sitting me down and they're giving me a raise and they're giving me all this money and they're giving me a long-term contract because they value what I bring to the table. They are giving me a raise because they value what I bring to the table and they could possibly have in the back of their mind plans for me because why else would they be signing me to this long-term deal on this multi-million-dollar contract, right? It's tough not to think that sitting there across from whomever is there giving you a contract, Vince, whomever, Dunn, whoever these people are, asking you to sign. Now, I don't know how smart these people are. It's easy to get blinded by money. Lana is of no importance to WWE TV. I mean, she is absolutely one of the most irrelevant characters on the entire roster. And I mean that wholeheartedly. She offers nothing to the WWE audience at all. Rusev is a different story. Rusev, and both Lana and Rusev flourished together when they were a pairing. You know, advocate, manager, valet, whatever the fuck you want to call Lana when she was managing Rusev. Rusev is the moneymaker in this entire pairing. His talents have been wasted. The WWE has not utilized him. He's got great charisma. He's not bad in the ring. He is a guy that people honestly and genuinely want to get behind. And he, out of everybody, he more so than anybody, needs to take a look at the Revival and needs to take a look at everybody, Luke Harper, everybody that WWE wants to keep on the team. Look at how many unhappy people there are. Does WWE think, or does Rusev think WWE is going to end up pushing him just because he signs? No. You're giving 5 years of your life to do the same exact thing that WWE is doing now. Either not use you or embarrass you. And one has to wonder, all the embarrassing moments that Rusev has gone on and done with this storyline. Don't you think WWE, it's very difficult not to think, but I think this way, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do as well. Rusev is being put in this situation to see his wife make out with another man on TV in front of Rusev as a way to embarrass him. But then WWE will shill the audience and think and tell the audience that, oh, Rusev is going to get over by the end of this thing because he's going to get his revenge on Bob Lashley and he's going to get his revenge on Lana. But in the middle of all this, you're having him watch as he swaps spit with another, as his wife swaps spit, I should say, with another man. It's ridiculous. I would never put myself in that situation. That's how you ruin a marriage. It's as if WWE wants Lana and Rusev's marriage ruined to begin with. Rusev has to know better. He has to know better. Why would you sign with the WWE? Don't let this cloud your judgment about signing with the WWE. Your wife is going to go and make her money. WWE is paying her very well. You go and do what you need to do for your career under a lighter schedule, under a banner that they're going to respect you, and they're going to give you the creative freedom to do what you need to do. They're going to take care of you. WWE doesn't want you for you. They want you just because they don't want you to go somewhere else. That's the only reason they want to lock you down. They want to keep you a prisoner. Because they don't want anybody going out there and exploring their options and blossoming with creativity and becoming better under somebody else's banner. Because it's going to make them look bad and you're going to boast of the competition. They don't want that. They want to suppress you. I don't understand why Rusev would sign. Lana is of no value to the WWE. They don't give a fuck. They don't really give it. They're not going to use her in any meaningful way. But Rusev has to know better. Please do not even contemplate signing with the WWE. Follow the road that everybody else is taking. Revival's gone. Luke Harper's gone. Matt Hardy's probably gone. For all we know, Rey Mysterio is probably done with the WWE after this current run that he's on. You don't want to stay in a place where they don't appreciate you. You don't want to stay in a place where they will willingly put you on TV and watch as your wife is making out with somebody else while you're groveling on your fucking knees watching all of this go down. You think they give a shit about you when they're getting clicks on YouTube about Lana and Bob Lashley making out while you're on your knees looking like a fucking loser? Come on, bro. Think about your career. We're all here for you. I want to see you flourish. Whether that means go to AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan. Expand your horizons. Build on that creativity. Do you want to be what we all think you could be? Or do you want to be a slave to the corporate machine? Doesn't give a shit if your wife signed. Your wife is going to be there for you anyway. Go and make your money. She makes her money. And then you come back and you guys can live a happy life. You're not going to live a happy life in the WWE, no matter how much they shill to you, how much money they're making, or how great they feel working for the WWE. You're not. Because year after year after year after year, your creativity is stifled and they don't appreciate you. Move the fuck on. Move on. Moving on with this news, contract news, Matt Hardy could be done with the WWE. Now, there is a report on Matt Hardy, or an update on his status with the WWE. We've seen him in the ring on Monday Night Raw. I do believe this was his first match on Monday Night Raw all year. All year. So, there's a new update on the WWE contract status of Matt Hardy. PW Insider reports that Hardy's deal actually expires in February and not March, as was the news that was previously reported. Meaning he'll be a free agent to leave and sign anywhere else that he wants. Now, the report goes into detail stating that while WWE and Hardy aren't far away in terms of financial considerations, the issue is more with how Matt will be used going forward. If Monday is anything to go by, it's not exactly looking promising for Matt Hardy at all, because if you've been watching his personal YouTube channel, he's got an entire series on just himself, and it's titled Free the Delete. You're not going to go on your own personal YouTube channel and create these mini documentaries with your wife filming them for you and editing them, and you going back to what brought you to the dance in this reincarnation of your, or a revitalization of your career this late in your career. You're not going to go back to what brought you to the dance and what made you all this money and all this types of new popularity. You're not going to go back to that unless you are interested in bringing that back. WWE's not interested in bringing that back because that's too creative for them. That's too creative, and they don't want to give Matt Hardy the creative freedom to do what he wants and be different because it's not in their plan. See, if Matt Hardy brings back the broken character and the broken universe to WWE TV, it's going to go against their plans. He's going to be more over than everybody else on the roster if they let him actually go and do what he needs to do to get that shit over. That's not in their plans. If he gets over and is extremely over and popular, then they have to start pushing somebody that they don't want to push. They only want to push those who the fans don't want to see, and they want to push who they want. So Matt Hardy right now is at a stalemate. What does he do? What does he do? Matt Hardy is thankful for WWE signing him. In this report, it's noted in this report that Matt Hardy is thankful for WWE signing him and Jeff back to the company when they did, although it's clear that his broken character wasn't capitalized on to the extent that he would have liked, or maybe even reached the heights that it could have reached. Now, Matt has been uploading, like I said, Free the Delete videos on his personal YouTube channel, which is a case of him planning ahead and keeping his character alive in preparation for if he does leave the WWE. You guys can watch the latest episode on his Matt Hardy official YouTube channel. So that's the only reason why he's doing it. You got to think logically here. He's not going and doing these productions just for the sake of doing these productions. Why would he do these productions and then sign again with the WWE? I don't understand that. Because we all know that the character's not going to be in the WWE the way he wants the character to be in the WWE. No matter if Paul Heyman is there or not, Vince McMahon still has a stranglehold on Monday Night Raw, and they will not allow him to do that. You're not going to go and make these videos unless you are that interested in moving on. And Matt Hardy is looking out for himself, and he said it himself. I can only do so much to guide my brother Jeff down the right path. Ultimately, it's going to be his decisions at the end of the day. And Jeff Hardy has obviously opted to go down the wrong road. Why does Matt have to be dragged into Jeff and his problems? Why does Matt have to be dragged into that situation? Matt obviously wants to go on and start creating again and start to build back what has been dead in the WWE for all these years. So he has the absolute freedom to do that. He has every right to do that. WWE, and he knows more than anybody that WWE is not going to allow him to do that. So go. Go. I'm sure Cody Rhodes and Tony Khan would welcome you with open arms. And I think that character would actually get over in AEW. You kidding me? They would welcome him back better than anybody if he goes to AEW. And they're not going to stifle his creativity. Now, if Matt signs with the WWE, what is that going to do for his career? He's just going to be like he is right now. Just like Rusev. Just like The Revival. Just like Luke Harper. Why? Why would you go out there and make a stupid... And I think Rebby... If you look at Rebby's Twitter, she's over the situation as well. She's done. She's just as frustrated as anybody. And she is very vocal about what's going on with her family, her husband, her kids, their status in the WWE. You just sense that she is frustrated as well. And it's not fair for Matt because of what Jeff is doing. Jeff has pretty much solidified that WWE is going to tack on all this extra time to his existing contract. Why would Matt put himself in that situation just for Jeff Hardy? Doesn't make any sense business-wise. Just leave. Wait till February and leave. Simple as that. You can literally go anywhere. AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan, MLW, House of Glory. We would welcome you with open arms. So, I hope he makes the right decision. I really do. Update on the future of Luke Harper. Following WrestleMania 35 this year, former Intercontinental Champion, you might not even remember, but yeah, former Intercontinental Champion Luke Harper requested his release publicly to WWE on Twitter. With AEW debuting just a few months later, WWE decided not to let Luke Harper leave the company. Of course not. Instead, adding injury time onto his current deal. They used him as a scapegoat because just before that, they let Dustin Rhodes leave. They let Shawn Spears leave. But Luke Harper tried the same thing. Fuck Luke Harper. He couldn't get over a Southern accent in front of Vince McMahon. You know? So they added time on top of his contract. So Vince didn't like him because he couldn't do a Southern accent. And they used him as a scapegoat and as an example for everybody else that wants to leave. That was that. That's the basis of the story here with Luke Harper. Luke Harper actually returned to WWE TV at Clash of Champions, and he helped Rowan defeat Roman Reigns. So we thought, okay, they're finally using Luke Harper. Now, if you forget the Crown Jewel Battle Royal, I didn't even realize he was in the Battle Royal at Crown Jewel. Luke Harper has not been seen on WWE TV since Hell in a Cell early in October. It has been speculated that Harper could leave the company before the summer of next year, and his recent trademark activity might suggest that he is preparing for his exit in 2020. PW Insiders reporting that Harper has filed a trademark for the name of Brody Lee. This is the name that Harper used on the independent scene for many years before being signed to WWE in 2012. Good for him. Good for him. He knows that the writing is on the wall. If Luke Harper has any interest in leaving the WWE, it is now. Just let your contract run up, sit home, let them pay you. They're keeping you cold because they don't want you gaining any momentum. They don't want you gaining momentum, and they're keeping you at home cold because they know that you are or could be a valuable asset if used correctly. And they don't want you used on television because if they use you on television, you're just going to be a attractive commodity for any other promotion out there. That's that. I'm glad he's trademarking Brody Lee. He's setting himself up for life after WWE, and he absolutely, if I was to bet on if Luke Harper stays or goes, the man is done. Clearly, Vince McMahon has no value in him. Vince McMahon doesn't even like him at this point. And with all that's been reported, he is on his way out the door. Good for him. I hope to see him pop up in AEW because him and what he brings to the table in AEW, he would be used fantastic in AEW. You could put him against Jon Moxley. You could put him against literally anybody. He is a great commodity. And he's still young, healthy, and ready to go. He is very good in the ring. Don't know how you can have somebody like that on your roster and not use them for your mid-card. He would fit perfect on Raw or SmackDown in the mid-card for an IC title or a US title. Shame on them. His gain will be WWE or AEW, anybody's gain. Really, it doesn't have to be AEW, anybody. Anybody else's gain here for Luke Harper, Brody Lee, it's going to be WWE's eventual loss. He might not be a ratings grab, he might not be a wrestler that moves the needle, but this man is being suppressed. And if you guys appreciate talent like we do here, Brody Lee leaving the WWE is the best move that the man could make. I hope to see it happen. Update on the future of NXT at Full Sail University. PW Insider is reporting that WWE will remain at the venue to air weekly NXT TV for the next few months, at least. WWE right now, at least through March of 2020. That is when their contract with Full Sail is up, in March of 2020. If WWE does indeed plan to take the show on the road, it won't happen immediately, but rather after March. It's been reported by Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter that WWE is considered holding weekly NXT TV shows outside of Full Sail University starting next year in bigger venues, but WWE has events at Full Sail listed through the month of January, February, and March. The reason for the change of venues is due to them going head-to-head with AEW Dynamite every week, and that is obviously no surprise to anybody. Now, I don't know if that is going to be a thing that NXT can do, fill 7, 8, 9, 10,000 seat venues every week for NXT. I don't anticipate them doing that. I don't really want to see them move out of Full Sail University for one reason and one reason only. If you take NXT out of Full Sail University and you put them in bigger venues simply to compete with AEW, this is why the takeover shows are so special. Now, the takeover shows are still going to be special in their own little kind of way, but to see NXT happen on USA Network in front of Full Sail University, and then we get to a takeover show where we see 13, 14,000 people, just amped up waiting for the great NXT product that we all know and love. It's going to take away some from the takeover shows. If you start building shows every single week in front of larger crowds, 6, 7, 8, 9,000 people, it's going to take away from those takeover shows. Those takeover shows are special because NXT's not in front of those live audiences as much. And if you do that every single week, the takeover shows clearly are going to suffer. So that's the only thing that I could see that is a negative there. Yeah, I want the larger crowds, but I don't want them to do something simply because AEW is doing something. You got something special here in Full Sail. Yeah, the same venue and the same look every week gets a little tedious. You don't want to be like a TNA Impact back in the day working out of Orlando, Florida at the Impact Zone. You don't want to do that, right? But this is not Impact. Impact isn't even a pimple on NXT's ass. I mean, give me a fucking break. But NXT being a Full Sail, I think, is the best decision that they could stick with right now. Other than that, if they move NXT out of Full Sail, not only are the takeover shows going to suffer, but it's going to be a little obvious and a little forced as to why they're moving NXT out of Full Sail. You didn't have a problem with NXT at Full Sail for the last 7 years. Now you got a problem with it? And the only reason why you'd be moving NXT out of Full Sail, and everybody is up to what's going on right now, the only reason why you'd move is to compete with AEW. Why do you need to do something to compete with AEW? Why? Let them do what they have to do. Worry about your own fucking shows. The crowd is great at Full Sail. The crowd is great. Moving the show out of Full Sail is not all that big of a priority, if you ask me. It's not. That's the way I see it. I don't know what else to say. Don't do something for the simple fucking reason and sake that AEW's doing it. Keep them in Full Sail. But what the fuck do I know? Vince is going to see that. They were talking about moving NXT out of Full Sail on week 1. It's because AEW had 14,000 people on their debut episode, and they drew over 1 million people. So by that alone, people in the company, the higher-ups, were like, we got to get the fuck out of this building. That's the only reason why they wanted to get the fuck out of the building, because you've seen 14,000 people for AEW, and yeah, it is an eyesore. Yeah, WWE doesn't want the perception of them being below AEW. But this is NXT. You're producing the best television in the entire company. You don't need to compete with AEW. Just keep doing what you're doing. Enough of this fucking back and forth competitive garbage. Put on a good show. It's all I give a shit about. Just a quick reminder, guys, my boy Salrex has a holiday special going on through the holidays all month long. If you guys know, Salrex is in charge of the layouts on every single video here that you see during the week, every single thumbnail that you see in your sub boxes. Salrex is the man behind that. He's got prices this holiday season, and they're great ones if you guys are a YouTube content creator, if you're a musician, if you guys need some t-shirt designs done, anything that your mind could possibly come up with. Salrex is your man to help your dreams and your vision come true, man. Basic designs go for $10. Detailed designs go for $20. Hit him up. His DMs are open on Twitter. SRX GFX. That's Salrex on Twitter. SRX GFX. Hit him up this holiday season for any of your graphic needs. WWE has changed up the future of the TakeOver schedule moving into 2020. Now, this was announced during War Games that we're getting a standalone NXT TakeOver on February 16th in Portland, Oregon. I think this is a great move. I have absolutely no problems with this move. On the Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer discussed this move and reason why WWE is booking their next TakeOver special as a standalone event and on a Sunday. This is meant to be a test to see if they can capture a wider audience with these shows. He says, and I quote, "I think the new thing is that they want all these big shows on a Sunday to avoid the Saturday boxing and whatever competition there is. I think that they found out, or there is a belief, that the viewership on the network has been traditionally much stronger on Sundays than Saturdays, and of course, there is a reason for that. Essentially, this is a test that they're doing with the TakeOver UK show, and for this show, where it's going to be as if more people are going to watch these takeovers on Sundays, and if it works, then Sunday will be the night where they move takeovers completely and have them as standalone events." So that's what Dave Meltzer said on the Wrestling Observer Radio. I don't mind this move at all. Now, a lot of you guys are thinking, they're doing it because of the AEW effect. I do not think that's the case, because WWE would be foolish to try and do something on the same night that AEW is doing a standalone event of their own, their major pay-per-views. They only have 4. Why would WWE try and actively compete with an AEW pay-per-view on the same night with a takeover? That is a terrible business mentality. That is a terrible business move. I don't think that would be beneficial for WWE at all. The one thing that we've come to know about AEW is that when they have a major pay-per-view, that it's going to be a very newsworthy show, and they've delivered on every major show. So I don't think that's something you want to fuck with. I think they've kind of developed a reputation for themselves where those shows are just as good as anything that NXT does. Now, with TakeOver being a standalone show in February on the 16th, I think this is great. For whatever reason, I do agree that WWE, they want to move this show to Sunday because of viewing habits. I think that is actually the reason, and I don't think they're bullshitting you. I think this is going to be beneficial for everybody here. And as a content creator, I love this. I don't like doing a show on a Saturday with TakeOver. I don't like that show just plopped in on a Saturday, and especially with a major pay-per-view weekend. It's just a lot of work that I really don't want to do as a content creator. And I know my fellow content creators in the wrestling community feel the same way as well. Me, I do SmackDown. Everybody covers SmackDown. Then we got TakeOver. I got Off the Script. Then I got a major pay-per-view on Sunday, right? Off the Script usually does Friday and Saturday, or during a, holiday week, it's Saturday, Sunday like it was this week. So much work. It's so much work. If TakeOver is its own pay-per-view, then that obviously lightens the workload. Now, with WWE moving TakeOver to their standalone night, I think it's great. They have the ability to really draw in an audience. They're not going to have a problem selling out these shows, because I think everybody has kind of been accustomed to the TakeOver shows that they are very newsworthy and they are as great as they are. They've developed a reputation for themselves that no TakeOver is going to be disappointing in any sense of the word. So with them moving this, it's easier on me. Now, with TakeOver standalone on its own for February 16th, we're going to get a Worlds Collide event during the Royal Rumble weekend. I don't know if this is going to be every major WWE pay-per-view, but they're certainly doing it for the Royal Rumble weekend. This is the announcement from WWE. On the eve of the 2020 Royal Rumble event, the stars of NXT and NXT UK will clash for brand supremacy at WWE Worlds Collide 2020. The WWE Network special taking place at Houston's Toyota Center on January 25th, 2020 will feature superstars from NXT and NXT UK like Adam Cole, Walter, Shayna Baszler, if she's still in the NXT brand at that time, Kaylee Ray, The Undisputed Era, Imperium, and more. Tickets for this must-see event will be available at nxttickets.com starting next Friday, December 6th at 10 a.m. local time. Don't miss your chance to see Worlds Collide live in person during Royal Rumble weekend. If you're wondering why there's no TakeOver on that night before the Royal Rumble, well, WWE moved, like I said, TakeOver in Portland to February 16th. So that's that. This sounds fun too. They're changing the entire aesthetics of this World Collide thing as well, because this was a tournament that they were doing at WWE Access with 205 Live, NXT UK, NXT, roster members, people who were not participating in the Royal Rumble, people who were not going to be in the Royal Rumble, people who were not going to be on that specific TakeOver show that weekend. So they moved that tournament aspect out of the picture, and they're doing NXT versus NXT UK. I would not do this during the Royal Rumble, or WrestleMania, or Survivor Series, or SummerSlam. I would not do it 4 times out of the year. Being that you're moving TakeOver to its standalone night, leave that and go with that for the rest of the year. If you want Worlds Collide to be a yearly thing, have it happen just once. The more you do it, the more you're going to kind of tire out the entire process. And if you're doing NXT versus NXT UK, I don't want to see that happen on multiple times in the year. That's something, if you're fans of those shows, you might want to just stick to one time a year. You don't want to blow your load in one shot. So I think that's exciting. I'm going to be watching that for sure, being that it's NXT versus NXT UK. And I think that could be a lot of fun. I hope WWE does not blow their shot all in with this Worlds Collide, doing it 4 times or 5 times in the year for their 5 big major pay-per-views in the calendar year. I hope not. So we'll see what happens with that. NXT and NXT UK, I'm down. TakeOver on its standalone night, I'm down. I think that's going to be easier on us content creators, and I think NXT has developed a reputation to kind of do that and be successful with it. They don't need to leech off the main roster anymore. They are their own brand. I think that's great for everybody involved. Triple H, speaking of TakeOver, Triple H went on record after TakeOver War Games and said that he felt bad about Britt Baker being on the TakeOver live feed after the monster air raid crash to Adam Cole from Tommaso Ciampa. They cut right away to Britt Baker in the crowd, and the excuse that they gave was, well, we wanted to capture the first sign of just shock, and she was the first one that we kind of went to. And they were given the excuse that, oh, we didn't know who she was, we didn't know that she was there, blah, 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 blah. All this fucking nonsense that I obviously don't believe. But Triple H said he felt bad about it. Britt Baker and Adam Cole, they are a couple. It's no surprise. Morrow actually made mention of it on commentary. Triple H was asked about the camera showing Britt Baker during the post-TakeOver conference call. Don't know why this was even a big deal. It is what it is. But obviously the cretins and the parasites in the community who are there on the conference call gotta ask just to insinuate, There's one thing that Triple H doesn't want after a great TakeOver show. It's mentions of AEW. But he said it was an accident, and the director simply picked the person in the crowd with the most astonished look on their face. As it turns out, it was Adam Cole's girlfriend, Britt Baker. Sean Ross Sapp reported that Triple H spoke to Britt Baker, and he said the director didn't know who the shot was. He went to the person in the crowd who had the most believable look on their face after the air raid crash, and it was her. He doesn't have a problem with it, but feels bad for putting her in that position. End quote. Baker is probably not going to have any punishment come down upon her from AEW. I'm sure AEW gave her the blessing to go watch Adam Cole perform in War Games. They're not like that. They're not WWE as far as that is concerned. Now, I do not believe that they didn't know who she was. The director didn't know who she was. Give me a fucking break. Seriously. Obviously, people know who she is. She worked for NXT. She's the girlfriend of Adam Cole, right? You think Britt Baker was sitting out there amongst the fucking cretins in the crowd, trying to enjoy the show the entire show? Of course people were gonna be bothering her and pestering her for pictures if she sat there the whole fucking show. You mean to tell me that Adam Cole didn't inform Triple H that his girlfriend was gonna be in the crowd? You mean to tell me that Adam Cole didn't go to WWE management to get tickets, comped tickets for for Britt Baker in this instance? You mean to tell me Triple H didn't have security usher Britt Baker from the fucking gorilla position where she probably was right before Adam Cole went to the fucking ring through the curtain? You mean to tell me Triple H didn't have security usher her to her seat and assign her a fucking seat in the venue? Give me a fucking break. Oh, we didn't know who she was. The director didn't know who she was. Unless Triple H didn't really relay the message to the director, I find this very hard to believe. Everybody knew she was there. And I obviously think the director knew that she was there. And they did this for reasons, not because they didn't know who she was. They definitely knew who she was. Give me a fucking break. You mean to tell me that nobody in the back seen Britt Baker walking around before Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era went out to the ring to make their ring introductions? Are you fucking kidding me? Man! WWE loves to play, innocent in all these situations. They love to be coy about all these situations, laid back. Are you fucking serious? If I was on that conference call, I would have not believed a single word out of Triple H's mouth. Do I believe he feels bad? Yeah, he feels bad. Because he doesn't want anything to come down on her from her employer. But they don't give a shit. Britt Baker, for all we know, asked Tony Khan, can I go to War Games? Can I go be in Chicago? I'm going to be in Chicago anyway for AEW. Can I go to the War Games show to support my boyfriend being in this War Games match? He probably said yes. So there you go. So, do I believe Triple H about feeling bad? Yeah, I do believe him in that sense, but you're not going to convince me that nobody knew that she was there or nobody knew who she was. Give me a fucking break. Moving on, man. Moving on. Finn Balor, he battled Matt Riddle at TakeOver War Games. There is reports going around that Balor from Fightful is reporting that Finn Balor was battling some kind of illness prior to War Games weekend. There's no word on what the exact illness was or how serious it was. They report, and I quote, we're told Balor was battling an illness prior to his match with Matt Riddle. So maybe I actually predicted, and there's no reason why Balor wouldn't be a part of the War Games team. I think if anybody is choosing teams for War Games, that Balor should have obviously been a choice for the Survivor Series just to load that match up with more star-studded talent. That might be the reason why Balor was not even chosen for the men's NXT Survivor Series team. So who knows? So WWE thought they probably should give him rest if that is the reason why they didn't choose him for Survivor Series. Now, Balor was not supposed to go one-on-one with Matt Riddle TakeOver. It was supposed to be Riddle a part of the men's War Games match, and Balor was going to work with Johnny Gargano. So plans change as Gargano is right now dealing with a minor neck injury. I think everything kind of worked itself out at TakeOver, and it ended up being one of the best shows of the entire year. Moving on here, man. I got this story from the dirt sheets, from the websites, and I seen it on Twitter. I seen back and forth on Twitter about this story. Jordynne Grace, Impact Wrestling's Jordynne Grace, who I love. I think she's fantastic. Jordynne Grace called out the Sandman, ECW's The Sandman, for saying women main eventing is wrong. Now, Jordynne Grace obviously is a huge advocate for not only intergender wrestling, but she's a huge advocate for just women's wrestling in general. And she's very good. She's very young. She's very good. And I think she's got an incredible future ahead of her. Impact is actually, I wish we could see her at NXT. I think she's fantastic. Now, Jordynne Grace has put out a tweet detailing comments made by the Sandman at a independent show that she did on Saturday night. The tweet reads, "Hey, remember that time the Sandman came up to 4 women about to main event to tell us that women main eventing is wrong and any male wrestler with any sort of experience would agree? Was this in 1998? No, it was tonight, December 2019. This obviously led to other wrestlers voicing their displeasure with the ECW legend, Sandman. AEW World Champion Chris Jericho simply tweeted, "I don't agree." Madison Rayne tweeted, "Gross. I hope he stuck around to see the match and eat his words." Will Ospreay tweeted, "Really? Most of the women wrestlers are pulling off more innovating and exciting stuff than ever before. Can't tell you the amount of times I go watch a Stardom match and want to retire because their matches are insane. Let's not interfere with progress. Everyone keep killing it." Now, I'm not sitting here saying I'm going to agree with the Sandman. I think the Sandman is just like every other old, retired legend who is completely out of date. You know, Sandman, I don't picture the Sandman watching current wrestling in 2019. I don't picture the Sandman keeping up with what's going on in the wrestling world right now in 2019. So let's get that out of the way. When I look at the Sandman, I see someone who is out of touch with what's going on. What I do agree with, now, I agree that women should be main eventing. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I agree with the Sandman, but in one instance, let's kind of cut apart, let's dissect what he said. Do women deserve to main event in 2019? Absolutely. Do women deserve to be in the main event just because we have to fit an agenda or fit in with the times just because? No. No. If I am a wrestling promoter, okay, and I mean this wholeheartedly, I am very old school. I have an old school way of thinking. Take a look at what Charlotte, Becky, and Asuka did at TLC last December. Look at what they did. Evolution was a decent pay-per-view. Was it groundbreaking? Was it great? Was it one of the best pay-per-views of the entire year? No. I didn't go overboard, in my opinion, of WWE Evolution. It was simply done because the women couldn't fly to Saudi Arabia that year. WWE made a big stink about getting the women on that show. It didn't happen. So as a consolation prize, we got the Evolution pay-per-view. Now, look at what Becky and Charlotte did on that night. One of the best matches of the entire year. Then look at what Becky, Charlotte, and Asuka did at TLC. Look at the landscape of women's wrestling in WWE. Whether you agree with it or not, whether you loved it, whether you thought it was nothing more than a political push and a political agenda, which it kind of was, it deserved to main event just based on everything the women were doing in that current period on WWE. For a stretch of 3 pay-per-views, 3 months, the women were outperforming the men on WWE Weekly Television. So I had no problem with Asuka, Becky, and Charlotte main eventing TLC because the match that they delivered was fucking fantastic. I have no problem with women main eventing as long as it makes sense. As long as there is an importance to the match. Specific title, specific storyline, things that have been building and building and building over months and months and months, and then the culmination of said match happens in the main event. If it's the most important thing on television, if you're fighting over a title and it's the most important thing that it's been portrayed on television, then yes, you put it in the main event. The women should not be treated because of the simple fact that they're women. The women are in this business to be treated as equals like the men, or as to the men. So if their storyline and their title and what they're doing is more important than what the men are doing, then they get the main event. If the men have something more important going on with whatever title they got going on, if the storyline or a certain storyline is being portrayed on television is coming off more important, then they go and be put in the main event. I'm not going to put the women in the main event just because I have to sit here and be like everybody else. I'm not going to put the women in the main event to fit a fucking agenda. Just because we have to treat women as equals and we got to do what's right because the female performers need their opportunity. Cut this shit out. Cut this shit out. If it's important, then you do it. If not, then they don't main event. Is the Sandman wrong? Absolutely. Absolutely. But you got to think about what is going on and where the importance falls on the card or the television show or for the title. That's how you book what's in the main event. And I have no problem with the women being in the main event at all. At all. Did Becky Lynch, Bayley, and Shayna Baszler deserve to be in the main event at Survivor Series? Absolutely fucking not. Absolutely not. And that's based on 2 different scenarios. One, you're not putting them in the main event if you don't have anything happening with Ronda Rousey. So they fucked up right there. Because you put that match on in the main event, and we talked about this yesterday, without delivering Ronda Rousey, that match suffered. It didn't belong in the main event before that. Didn't belong in the main event. WWE only put that in the main event to force everybody on Shayna Baszler. And you don't do that. You don't do that. Becky Lynch is not right now at a point where she can carry a brand. She's not the face of the fucking company. She died off after WrestleMania. That doesn't mean I don't respect and appreciate Becky Lynch. I love Becky Lynch. But she's not as hot as everybody says she is. She's not. Nobody's coming to the shows to watch Becky Lynch. Nobody's watching the TV shows for Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch in the women's division right now in the WWE is as cold as it's ever been. So they don't belong in the main event because what they are doing and the story they are telling with the women doesn't belong there based on the importance of where they fall on weekly television. I'm not sitting here saying that they don't deserve to main event. They didn't deserve to main event on that night. Women don't deserve to main event unless they have the most important portion of the show. And they don't. They don't. Last year they did. And I had absolutely no fucking problem with it. And I was proud that they were out schooling the men in quality. But give me a fucking break. It just comes down to common logic. The Sandman was wrong. He's an out-of-touch idiot. You know? The women certainly do deserve to main event when it is right. Other than that, I have no problem with it. Moving on. We're almost done here. We got to talk about a clown, and we got to talk about Humberto Carrillo. Humberto Carrillo. WWE is over Humberto Carrillo. Goodbye. No more love from Vince McMahon. So, as far as this goes, it's no secret. Vince McMahon was only pushing Humberto Carrillo to give Paul Heyman a shot at leading Monday Night Raw, and the Monday Night Raw era under Paul Heyman has been a complete failure. No ifs, ands, or buts. Vince McMahon is already done with one of Paul Heyman's guys. He wanted to push Humberto. He wanted to be the guy to get behind Humberto. Vince McMahon is already done with Humberto Carrillo. So, Monday Night Raw came. AJ Styles was set to defend the United States Championship against Humberto Carrillo. However, Carrillo never made the match and was attacked by Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows to take him out of said United States Championship. Instead, Rey Mysterio took on AJ Styles, won the United States Championship. He defeated Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, and Ricochet in a four-way match to even get that title shot. Won the title. And just like Cedric Alexander, Humberto Carrillo has fell out of favor with Vince McMahon. And that is it. According to Dave Meltzer and his view of Raw, Vince McMahon is done with Humberto Carrillo. The former 205 Live star will stop receiving a big push on Raw. And Meltzer says this: Vince is done with Humberto for the time being. He's giving him the Cedric Alexander. Like, you're still going to see him on TV, but I'm sure he's going to win here and there. But it's not going to be as if he's getting a major push on TV. It's exactly what they did to Cedric. He got a few weeks. Vince thought he wasn't getting over, so he's just done. End quote. Now, I'm not saying Humberto doesn't have a lot of potential. Humberto is very talented at what he does. But WWE has nobody to blame but themselves. I don't really understand why you're putting all the blame on Humberto Carrillo. Humberto came out for over a month with barely any reaction whatsoever. There's not one single fucking person that cared about what he did. They tried. They put him in there with Seth Rollins while he was the Universal Champion, and he delivered a decent match. But Humberto was not made. Humberto was not over. I got shit on after I came out and absolutely shit on everybody who said that Humberto was made that night. Clearly he's not made, because clearly he's fucking buried. He made his fucking burial ground is what he fucking made. Give me a break. This is WWE's fault. Humberto is talented. Humberto is talented, but if you think you're going to put Humberto out there and throw him out there to the fucking wolves and expect him to get over in his current state to the WWE audience, oh, he could do a fucking springboard arm drag off the top rope and he could fly around like a luchador and he's a pretty boy, right? Look at the music that he comes out to. It generates no reaction. Look at what he does in the ring. Look at his character. Look at his charisma. Nobody knows anything about fucking Humberto Carrillo. This is WWE's fault. He didn't spend enough time in NXT. You moved him from NXT to 205 Live, and then nobody watching 205 Live. You opt to draft him to fucking Monday Night Raw because Monday Night Raw needs new faces, and then you throw him out there for 5-6 weeks, and nobody knows who the fuck he is. Nobody knows who he is. So why do you expect us to care when you've done nothing to show this guy that you care about him and his growth? I don't get it. Guys like that, they're a dime a dozen. They're a dime a dozen. I don't know a fucking thing about Humberto Carrillo, so why am I going to care? I could put him in the ring with Seth Rollins. You could put him in the ring with Andrade. You could put him in the ring with AJ Styles. Nothing worked. Nothing worked. He's in the fucking ring with AJ Styles and he still can't get over. Whose fucking fault is that? Is it AJ's fault? Is it Humberto's fault? Or is it your fault for putting him in that position to begin with? Give me a break. WWE failed Humberto Carrillo. Humberto Carrillo is a fucking innocent bystander in all of this. You put him out there as already a failure. What do you expect him to do? Rise? Rise with that fucking audience on that show. You expect him to rise above. Now you killed him. Now nobody gives a shit about Humberto Carrillo. He'll be on fucking main event before you know it. Moving on. Vince McMahon, he might be out of favor with Humberto Carrillo, but Vince McMahon apparently loves big man Keith Lee. Now, Keith Lee was the final man in the NXT Survivor Series elimination match. He earned Roman Reigns' respect when everything was said and done. The big dog, please, Michael Cole, please, wasn't the only person who Lee impressed. Keith Lee, according to sources, received incredible reviews backstage. He's not afraid to do the work given to him, and the fact that Vince McMahon likes him is a huge bonus. They could even have plans to place a main roster title on him in the next couple of months. This is from an anonymous source in the company, and I quote, "He doesn't complain, he shows up to do the work. We all know how good he is, and this was his night to show everyone what he could do." Vince likes him, and I think he'll be on Raw or SmackDown in a few months. I would put one of the main belts on him. If they don't want him to beat Bray, they could put him in there with Brock. I think people can believe Keith Lee can beat Brock Lesnar. He is what Vince is looking for. I would maybe even give him a manager and give him a long run as champion. He works hard, or harder than anyone, and never bitches or complains about anything, so I'm happy for him. After this Survivor Series performance, Keith Lee could very well be elevated in a position in WWE where he could get a shot in the Royal Rumble and show everybody exactly what he's made of and then get drafted to either Raw or SmackDown. But Keith Lee made himself into a superstar, and you can tell they could have picked anybody. They could have left Ciampa in there. They could have left Matt Riddle in there with Roman Reigns. They opted for Keith Lee. A year ago, we weren't even talking about Keith Lee. And here we are talking about Keith Lee being in incredible plans for WWE's main roster with Vince McMahon loving him. Now, I would put him on Raw. I would really put him on Raw. I don't think SmackDown really needs anybody. I think SmackDown is fine the way they are. But if Keith Lee's going anywhere, I would put him on Raw. And with Keith Lee being as dominant and believable as he is, I'd love to see Keith Lee and Samoa Joe. I'd love to see Keith Lee and AJ Styles. I'd love to see Keith Lee and Andrade. I'd love to see Keith Lee and Aleister Black. I'd love to see Keith Lee and Brock Lesnar. Can you imagine that? Now, there aren't many people on Monday Night Raw at all for Brock Lesnar to go one-on-one with. Who is Brock Lesnar's next opponent on Monday Night Raw? I couldn't tell you. Normally, I have a good idea. I couldn't tell you. Whoever it is, it's going to be an interim. It's going to be one of those things where they just throw somebody at him just to get him through the Royal Rumble. You all know Brock's going to be at the Royal Rumble. Who is he going to get at the Royal Rumble? Could be anybody. Could be Samoa Joe again. Could be another believable guy like Samoa Joe. I don't know. But there really isn't anybody on the main roster that they could put against Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble. Who's it going to be? Now, Brock Lesnar doesn't have any opponents coming out of Monday Night Raw. And if they want to go that route with Keith Lee possibly winning the Royal Rumble and challenging Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, I'm all for that. But Keith Lee's not my first choice for that. Keith Lee is not my first choice for that. I'd actually bring up Matt Riddle before I bring up Keith Lee. Have Matt Riddle win the Royal Rumble. Matt Riddle didn't get a shot at the Survivor Series to show what he could do or what he's made of. Maybe he would have been in favor with Vince McMahon. Matt Riddle's the guy. Right now, there's nobody with Brock Lesnar, and that's an issue. Because you moved him over to Monday Night Raw from SmackDown. He certainly had more competition on SmackDown than he does on Raw. There's nobody that I want to see in the ring right now currently on Raw with Brock Lesnar. Matt Riddle's the only one. Bring him up, have him win the Royal Rumble, and build Matt Riddle to take down Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania and build a new superstar through those means. We could be looking at Keith Lee replacing Matt Riddle in that sense. I don't know. But who do you put against Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble? Who? And nobody's going to believe that Lesnar's going to lose because anybody you put in there is just going to be for that night only. Just to get Lesnar some work on the road to WrestleMania. I don't get it. But Keith Lee, Vince McMahon loves Keith Lee. Again, when I first read it, I found it very hard to believe. You know, I look at Keith Lee and he's not the typical guy that Vince McMahon is looking to push. Keith Lee, I look at Keith Lee and I love Keith Lee. I think he's fucking fantastic. But what Vince McMahon looks at when he looks at Keith Lee is not what I look at. He might look at Keith Lee as being overweight. He might look at Keith Lee as being not, built enough or over enough in that sense. Look at Kevin Owens. Constantly being made fun of about his weight. Samoa Joe wasn't signed first by the WWE because everybody in the company thought he was overweight. When I look at Keith Lee, I'm looking at Vince McMahon thinking Keith Lee is overweight. But he does things in that ring that a lot of guys can't really do for a man that size. Is Vince finally going to look past that? Is he going to look past his possibly being overweight? Is he going to look past his skin color? You think Vince McMahon's going to push a black man on television the way that we all want Keith Lee to be pushed? I don't think so. If anything, Big E would have been pushed before Keith Lee. I can't see it. I really don't see it. This is, to me, something that happened on Sunday night at Survivor Series. It's something that, and it goes to show you that Vince McMahon isn't even watching NXT because he would have known what Keith Lee was about and what Keith Lee has done in the weeks leading up to Survivor Series. So I don't know why he's just now finding out about Keith Lee. It's as if Vince McMahon is telling you without telling you that he's not watching NXT. I honestly think this is just a flavor of the month type deal. Seriously. As the months go on and Vince doesn't have anything to do with Keith Lee, he's going to forget about Keith Lee, but he loved Keith Lee in that moment because the interaction with his boy, Roman Reigns, was great. So it might be a sense of, well, he might not have plans for Keith Lee on the main roster. It might just be something that he's contemplating now because of the performance he gave at the Survivor Series, and it might just be in that moment. I don't think it's going to be anything long-term for Keith Lee. There is news on Brock Lesnar. Being that I mentioned Matt Riddle, Keith Lee, possibly being believable opponents for Brock Lesnar because he's honestly run through everybody. I don't want to see Seth Rollins again. WWE has no plans for Brock Lesnar for 2 months. And this is coming from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. They are reporting that Brock Lesnar is now set to take a couple of months off as WWE has no plans for him until the Royal Rumble, where he will presumably start a very short program with somebody before beating them easily. Lesnar is back on hiatus until probably January. His next show is the Royal Rumble, so he'll be back when it comes to shoot his angle for that show. End quote. That's it. So I don't know who it could be. I really don't know. There isn't anybody on the Monday Night Raw side that I could honestly see in that role. And I would not put an Aleister Black in that role. Aleister Black needs his own push. And I don't want to put him in there with Brock Lesnar just to get destroyed in about 6 minutes. Give me a break. So I honestly can't even come up with a name for Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble. But as you see, they're building the United States title as something to be important on this show because they know that Lesnar's going to be off TV all of December and most of January. So obviously everybody on that show is going to need something to fight for, and the United States title is going to be that title that is going to take the top spot on Raw until Lesnar gets back to TV with the WWE Championship. Seth Rollins. His heel turn was not in the original plan. Now, I don't even want to talk about his heel turn right now. He came out on Monday Night Raw. On Monday Night Raw, and Rollins mentioned CM Punk. Now, Vince McMahon was furious with Seth Rollins for acknowledging the CM Punk chants in Chicago on Raw. Sure he was. He was furious with Seth Rollins. So he comes out, and the first thing that people are chanting at Seth Rollins is CM Punk. Now, on the Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer explained that a source in the WWE told him that Vince is furious with Seth Rollins for acknowledging the fans' chants. He said on Raw, and I quote, "I tried to get Punk here." He didn't mention Punk by name, but he said, "I tried to get him here. I'm sorry he didn't want to show up. He wants to sit behind his desk in Los Angeles and talk about a change he's too afraid to make himself." End quote. Now, it is thought in the WWE that the general rule in the WWE is that you don't hype a match that is never going to happen. And as by acknowledging the Punk chants, Rollins would have got a lot of people excited about a potential match between the two that is probably not going to happen, at least right now. Despite a return to WWE on Fox, with Punk being on WWE Backstage. Punk isn't signed to the WWE at all. He is contracted to Fox. Seth has challenged Punk multiple times on Twitter, and Punk has invited Seth to appear on WWE Backstage. So this could obviously be a thing that is brewing. We don't know. And I honestly don't really get excited about a Punk-Rollins match at all. Rollins is using Punk's return to generate interest for him because his character is as cold as ice. His character is dead. Nobody gives a shit about Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins is trying to hang on to any relevancy that he could, and obviously his latest victim is CM Punk. Seth Rollins addressed the fans in Chicago who were chanting CM Punk during this week's Raw. That was a move that Vince McMahon did not like. In fact, WWE edited out the comment from Rollins on their YouTube channel, and all replays of that segment from Monday Night Raw. Now, while speaking to KISS 103.5, Seth Rollins explained why he is provoking CM Punk. He doesn't think that CM Punk came back to the WWE just to sit behind a desk and talk. So, this is what he said about CM Punk, and I quote, "Well, yes, of course, look, man, he spent 5 years on hiatus, good for him, hopefully he's got his head right, but he comes back to sit behind a desk and talk? That's not very CM Punk. That's not the guy that they want. That's not what they want." End quote. No. I love CM Punk being on WWE Backstage. I would be content if he stays on that show and doesn't wrestle. What Seth Rollins wants, the fans want Punk back in the ring. I don't think the fans want Punk back in the ring with Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins wants Punk to be back in the ring with him because he's a dying act. And he knows right now, unless WWE turns him heel, that he's got nothing going for him. She was trying to cling on to any relevancy at all, and it comes off as a desperate attempt for attention. That's all that Seth Rollins is trying to do. Now, WWE heavily monitors all activity on social media. That includes Seth Rollins' Twitter. If you don't think Seth Rollins' Twitter is being monitored by higher-ups in the WWE just based on who he is and the position he holds in the company on Monday Night Raw, you have to be ridiculously stupid. If WWE didn't want Seth Rollins tweeting about CM Punk, they would have automatically told him, bro, don't do this. Don't go out there on a public social media platform and start tweeting about you wanting a match with CM Punk. So clearly, they gave him the okay to do it on Twitter. Then he comes out on Monday Night Raw, addresses the CM Punk chants in Chicago that I'm sure they all anticipated him getting, or the show getting in general, being that they're in Chicago. You mean to tell me that Vince McMahon didn't know where they were? Give me a break. He very much knew that they were in Chicago for 4 straight nights. If you are that stupid to think that Vince McMahon did not condition people on the CM Punk chants and how to attack the CM Punk chants, you are oblivious to what is going on. Seth Rollins went out there and mentioned CM Punk, and I'm sure he got the okay from Vince McMahon. Why? Because CM Punk is wanted back in the WWE, and Vince McMahon knows that everybody wants Punk back in the WWE. Everybody wants to see Punk back in the ring, and Vince McMahon is right at the top of that fucking list. You kidding me? Of course they had Seth Rollins go out there and acknowledge the CM Punk chants, because nobody wants CM Punk back in a wrestling ring more than WWE. They see the door that's creaked open a little bit. They're going to take advantage of that every twist and turn that they can, just to kind of just throw it out there. That, look, we got something for you. We're waiting. We're here waiting. Give me a break, people. Vince McMahon is furious with Seth Rollins? I don't think so. I'm actually defending Seth Rollins on this one. He comes off as desperate about this entire thing with CM Punk, but you mean to tell me that Vince is furious at CM Punk, or furious at Seth Rollins for mentioning CM Punk when it's probably Vince McMahon who wants CM Punk back more than anybody else? You're going to blame Seth Rollins for going out there and hyping up something that Vince wants to have happen? He's just waiting on it. Give me a break. I don't believe that story at all about Vince being furious about Seth Rollins, or with Seth Rollins, about the CM Punk chants on Monday Night Raw. Now let's talk about this Seth Rollins heel turn, man. I got not as much criticism as I expected with my stance on the heel turn for Seth Rollins. My stance on it is this. I don't understand why WWE is so late to the party. I really don't understand why they're so late in figuring out how to handle Seth Rollins. The answers were given to them in the beginning of October. It came out of SummerSlam, and then Rollins went right back to being booed. He looked like a champion coming out of SummerSlam. And then all of a sudden, we got the Seth Rollins that we are getting now, and it's worse now than it's ever been before. The guy is just not wanted. He has go-away heat. Nobody gives a shit about Seth Rollins. Everybody has lost respect for Seth Rollins, whether it's a promo he cut, whether he comes off as far as his character goes with no charisma, and he sounds defeated. He goes on Corey Graves' podcast and starts blaming the fans. Just every interview he did, he made himself look like a blithering idiot. Seriously. The guy sucks so bad, in every sense of the word, that this is not the Seth Rollins that I remember at all. I don't know who this is. I don't know who we are watching on TV right now. WWE had all the answers in front of them after Hell in a Cell. They knew what they had to do, yet they continued pushing him as a babyface, and they refused to change with Rollins' character because they needed a babyface, and this is not what they want. They don't want Rollins as a heel. They didn't want Rollins as a heel, yet WWE fans across the world were telling them exactly what they want and where they need to go. Now, everybody thought, well, they don't have another babyface on the roster to replace Seth Rollins. They absolutely do. You got Aleister Black, you got Kevin Owens. What do you mean you don't have other babyfaces to take Seth Rollins' spot? Seth Rollins is old news. Seth Rollins has done everything possible in this company for this show. What else is there for him to do? He's gotten stale. He's gotten stale. After Hell in a Cell, that one creative blunder, meaning the outcome, completely fucked up their plan. So no matter if it was in their plan or not, that one fucking creative decision fucked up anything they had planned for this guy. He came out of that match as a heel. You didn't know it. You didn't know it. Everybody was ignorant to the fact that Rollins was heel then, there, and on that night. I don't think Rollins even knew he was a fucking heel. All he did was complain that the fans don't respect him. They wanted me to be a certain way, and now here I am this way, and now they don't like me. Why don't they like me? Look at WWE Creative. They fucked you up. Now it's WWE Creative's job to fix the fucking mess that they created. They created a mess. Now it's their job to fix it. There was only one way to fix this, and that was book Rollins as a heel. Not have him get negative reactions and come out as a babyface. Not have him come out as a babyface with all these negative reactions. Not go into Manchester or wherever they were in the United Kingdom and start altering the crowd reactions to him just to hide the fact that the fans hate him so that he's portrayed as a babyface. It's not real. It's not real. Now we come to Monday Night Raw. They're in Chicago. And WWE has him conduct this clown hall meeting, right? Or what I called a clown hall meeting, the town hall meeting. He comes out shitting on the entire WWE locker room, which was fine. Told everybody that they sucked, told everybody that they didn't do their jobs at the Survivor Series, called Rey Mysterio a disappointment, him and his stupid son, right? He blasted the AOP, saying that you guys are standing out here, we could have used your help at Survivor Series, blah, 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 blah. And then he goes back and says to Kevin Owens, when Kevin Owens is the last one to look him in the face before stunning him, you know, I didn't mean it the way that it came off. I love this place so much. Raw is my home. I've watched this show grow, and I want to see this be the best wrestling show on the planet, blah, 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 blah. So then Kevin Owens stuns him. And Seth Rollins really isn't still a heel. He's not really a heel per se, confirmed. Is he getting heel reactions? Yes, he is. It's the same thing with Roman Reigns. It's the same thing with Roman Reigns. It's the same thing I cried about with Roman Reigns. They portrayed him as a fucking babyface when the crowd considered him public enemy number one. And they didn't do anything about it. They didn't do anything about it. All they did was, a reaction is a reaction, and that's what we live for. Reigns is getting cheered, Reigns is getting booed. That's all we want, is a reaction. It's the wrong reaction. It's the wrong reaction. Because what you're doing is going against the audience. Meanwhile, the audience is telling you exactly what they think of this guy and where this guy should be going as far as creative, and you refuse to listen. Now they're doing the same thing to Seth Rollins. If they didn't do it then, this is my problem. If they didn't do it then, when it was 100% the right way, when it was 100% the right creative decision, and they didn't do it, what makes you think they're going to do it now? Now they got their backs against the wall. Are they going to do it? Are they going to do it, or are they going to portray Seth Rollins in the same way that they portrayed Roman Reigns? Yeah, he was getting heel reactions, but they portrayed him as a babyface. You are actually hurting Seth Rollins. You hurt Roman Reigns by doing that. You're hurting Seth Rollins by not following the entire way through on this. Now, is he getting heel reactions? Yes. But unless WWE starts portraying him as a heel, then I'm not going to believe this is a complete heel turn. Like Bryan Alvarez said on the Wrestling Observer Live. I don't think this is a heel turn. I don't really think it's a complete heel turn. Is it on the road to a heel turn? Yes. But why? Why would you sit there and give WWE the benefit of the doubt here? Have they ever listened to you? Have they ever listened to us? Have they ever listened to their audience? Did they listen when Roman Reigns was being booed out of the building? The answer is no. They didn't do it then. What makes you think they're going to do it now? The heel turn. Bryan Alvarez mentions about the heel turn. He discussed the heel turn on the Observer Live. The gist of this show is that Rollins turned heel, and apparently Rollins has some wacky idea for his character, which I guess is that everybody hates him, and he's right, and therefore in the mind of Rollins, he's a babyface, even though everybody else thinks he's a heel. So as a heel, he's going to wrestle as a babyface. This doesn't work. This is not going to work. No matter whose idea is this. If this is Rollins, if this is Vince, this is a majority of the creative, this is not going to work. It's not going to work. If I am looking at someone who's getting a negative reaction, I want no babyface reaction or babyface aura coming from him. This is not a heel turn. This is not a heel turn. You are a heel when you get the negative reaction, and you get a heel turn completely done when you are acting as a heel. I don't need to look any further than Tommaso Ciampa. The guy was a heel. The guy got fucking blasted every time he came out. Chants of asshole, we hate you, and Ciampa acted as a heel. If Ciampa act the way he acted now, then he's not a heel. He's not a heel. I'm sorry. You are not going to have a successful Rollins transformation if you have him act the same way he's always been acting, and then with the negative reaction behind it, oh, he's getting booed, he's a heel. No. If I see him acting the same way he is now, it's not a heel turn. So, everybody hates him. In the mind of Rollins, he's a babyface, even though he thinks, or everybody thinks he's a heel. So he's going to wrestle as a babyface. This sounds similar to what Bret Hart did in 1997 when he felt the fans turned on him, but he considered himself the good guy. Hart's story, yeah, but the difference is Rollins doesn't have a Shawn Michaels and a Stone Cold Steve Austin and an Undertaker to work with. The whole reason why that was so great was because Stone Cold was on his way to being the most over superstar in the history of the fucking company, and the crowd gave them what they wanted, and the WWE actually listened. WWE doesn't listen to their audience and have not listened to their audience in a very long time. Hart's storyline was different because he was a babyface to the fans in Canada and he was a heel here in the United States. Rollins, everywhere he goes, he's getting negative reactions, and WWE is still portraying him as the Rollins that we all looked at as a babyface. It's not going to work. Alvarez continued. He thinks Rollins is a heel. This is a heel turn. I know a lot of times we see these weird storylines and such on Raw, and I think somebody has turned heel, and I'm told, no, they're still babyface or whatever. This is definitely a heel turn for Seth Rollins. Now, a listener of the show praised the heel turn because it looked like there has been a slow burn for this heel turn, but Alvarez was quick to point out that Rollins' heel turn was not in the long-term plans. Obviously it's not, because if they figured out what the fuck they did wrong at the Hell in a Cell and picked up on it then and applied what they needed to apply then it would have been in the plans. The fact that WWE prolonged this and continued to trot Rollins out there as a babyface, altering the reactions that they got on TV, lowering the crowd volume, piping in cheers when there were clearly boos. They are treating him as a babyface. You can't do that. You can't do that. You gotta suck it up. He's not the one. He's not the one. Don't fall into the same category as Roman Reigns. Don't make the same mistake twice. Please, for the sake of this guy's fucking career, don't make the same mistake twice. Yes, Rollins turned heel. That's what Alvarez says. This was not in the long-term plans. All of this stuff that Seth has been doing where he's booed out of the building up until yesterday, the idea was never that he was turning heel. It was his idea to turn heel. In his mind, he may have been planting seeds, but he was supposed to have been a babyface all the way up until Raw, and then he turned. Alvarez continued, this is not like a slow turn that they're doing. This is not like a slow turn that they're doing now. This is his idea. This is his character. This is his heel character, who he thinks is right. I think he thinks he's the 1997 Bret Hart. Seth Rollins' character thinks that, the fans are being unfair to him in the WWE, so he's going to wrestle like a babyface while burying you. That seems to be the plan. I guess we'll see what's next. Yeah, but I don't think the fans are going to really... This is so difficult. On one hand, I want to say it's a heel turn. On one hand, I want to say it's a heel turn. On the other, I want to say it's not a heel turn. It's not a complete heel turn. I don't want to see him wrestle as a babyface. I don't want to see him come out there thinking that he's the good guy. It's not the type of heel I want. Especially for this guy's character. We've been through this. We're sick of the way he acts. He needs to act like he did when he was a part of Triple H's fucking corporation. He needs to act when he had J&J Security. That's the heel we need. Not this fucking, I'm Rollins, I'm going to act the same way that I've been acting, but you're going to boo me. I'm right and you're wrong. No. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. I'm sorry. It's not going to be a Rollins I'm going to invest my time in. I don't want to see that type of character on TV. I don't. It's not going to be the same as Bret Hart. Because Bret was booed in the United States and cheered in Canada. It went with what they were telling there. This guy's being booed in every city he's in, so he should act as such. Don't act like the good guy. Bret acted like the good guy in Canada, and when he was in the United States, he shit on us because he knew he was fucking hated. Rollins has to fucking X out Canada and fucking act like the heel everywhere he goes. Everywhere he goes. This would explain some of the things he said recently in interviews and on Twitter. So we'll see if this work and this work that he's putting in will build interest towards his character in these segments. I don't think it will. I don't think it will. People want to hate you, and you need to act. You need to act as such if they're going to hate you in that way. You cannot have people hate you and then come out and be fucking Daniel Bryan. You can't do it. You can't do it. I'm sorry. Now, Rollins, this heel turn, if they're going to go with it, they got to go all the way. You can't go 60%, 70%, 90%. You got to go 100%. Rollins possibly to complete the heel turn at TLC. That's what the rumor is. Now, during the segment, Rollins ran down the Raw roster, the Clown Hall meeting, condemning them for their poor performance at Survivor Series. Based on what happened at Monday Night Raw, Rollins and Owens will square off in a TLC match at the pay-per-view. That's what is being rumored right now. So there is speculation that AOP will once again interfere in the match, helping Rollins to victory. There, we could see AOP solidify themselves with Rollins, and we could see the full heel turn come to be. Rollins hopefully will take my advisement, and my word under advisement here, and go full-fledged heel with AOP. And this is speculation at this point. But if that is the case, they have to go with it. They have to go with it. As far as him wrestling as a babyface, this was also talked about on top of what Meltzer and Alvarez already talked about. Alvarez was not overly kind to the new character on Raw. He tweeted this as well during Monday Night Raw. Seth is out there doing multiple topes, dives, springboards, basically all of his babyface comeback spots. He somehow immediately went from being the worst babyface to the worst heel, which is actually pretty impressive. Brian Alvarez is not a fan. If Rollins is able to pull off a character like Bret Hart did in 1997, that would be great. I don't think he can. Fans legitimately want to boo him. They don't want him to act like a babyface. Now, it might be annoying. Hey, listen, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. If he makes it work, I'll eat my words. But that's not something I'm interested in seeing. I think we all can agree Rollins needs to go back to the blonde streak in his fucking hair and be that sniveling prick that he was back all those years ago. That's what we need to say. Not this new version of Seth Rollins where he thinks he's the right guy, the good guy, and everybody's going to boo him. No, because then WWE is just going to exploit that and think that he's a fucking babyface, and they're not going to present him as a heel. They're not! One or the other. This is why I don't like it. Because WWE is not going to follow through on it. Rollins could play it perfectly. WWE is not going to follow through with it because they're fucking ignorant. I don't trust them to make this right. That's where my issue lies. That's where my issue comes from. You give WWE this fucking version of Seth Rollins, they're going to portray him as a babyface, and they're going to hide the heel aspect to it. They're going to say, no, you can't boo him. They're going to alter the sound. They're going to alter the fucking boos. They're going to chime in boos, pipe in cheers. No, can't have that. Can't have that. They're going to exploit this and take advantage of it. You go all the way or you don't do it at all. That's what they need to do. I don't want to hear anything else about this fucking Seth Rollins, this version of Seth Rollins from anybody. They go with it and they give me a full-fledged heel. If not, then don't even waste my fucking time. Don't. That's what I have to say about that. So we'll see. WWE and Vince have positioned themselves as heels in wrestling, often burying fan favorites, pushing Vince's vision no matter what. Rollins looks to be the latest casualty, the fans turning on the face of Raw. And it'll be interesting to see how a character who wrestles like a babyface but leans on being a heel works in 2019. It's not going to work. Roman Reigns was booed by 90% of the audience, and he never acted as a heel. And you know what? That was a missed opportunity. A missed opportunity. Don't make the same mistake twice. This is what's going to get Rollins back in the good graces of everybody who fucking hates him. I want to boo him. In fact, I want to see him booed, but I want to like him. I want to like him. And I don't think I could like him under this current pretense. Don't make the same mistake twice. Because I didn't boo Ciampa. I didn't boo Ciampa at all. I want the same thing to be for Seth Rollins. Don't make the same mistake twice. You didn't follow through with Reigns, and if you don't follow through with Rollins, Rollins is dead. Dead. And there's no coming back from that. Guys, I'm getting out of here. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that thumbs up. Let me know what you think down below of all the content that you watched today, all the news and rumors on today's video. Sound off down in the comments below. If you guys missed any other video that I uploaded this week, hit that link down below. All those links, you'll find every video you need. Also, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on that bell for all notifications. If you want to support the podcast via Patreon, you guys can really do that. Patreon.com/JDForMen206. Harrys.com/script for your holiday gift set. Make sure you guys go easy this holiday season. Make it easy for yourself. Harry's and their gift sets, man. Great deal there. Harrys.com/script. Also, the Ridge.com/script. Use code script at checkout for 10% off. And I will be back on Monday for Raw. We got another Raw coming up, and hopefully we see what I said about Seth Rollins. No more of this babyface heel bullshit. It's either one or the other. The babyface failed. Turn him full-fledged heel, which has not happened yet. I will tell you when it's full-fledged heel, but right now we're on the road there, and hopefully WWE doesn't make the same mistake twice. Guys, have a great Sunday. Hit that thumbs up, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow night for Monday Night Raw. See you then.